Hi, my name is Amanda, and today we will be going over APX within your Amicus attorney program. As you can see, I already have my Amicus open. So what I'm going to do first is head over to my firm settings. From here, in my billing section down at the bottom right, I have an option for APX. So I'll click that to access my settings. What we're then presented with, first I see my operating and trust accounts. This has already been mapped based off of the data that you provided on your APX application. But down here at the bottom, we have some options for you. So under settings in the bottom left, we have email notifications. Clicking this is going to present you with a list of all available email notification alerts that you can turn on or off and specify who we want those alerts to be sent to. So here, as mentioned, you can see all of these are currently marked as on. If at any point I wish to turn this off, simply click right on that white dot. It's going to slide over and now say off. For those that I have left on, you're going to see that green shade right here. We see the word on, and we see manage list below that alert. So clicking manage list is going to let me now specify, now that I've indicated I do want that alert on, this box here as well will begin placing all email addresses of other firm users who I would like to receive that particular email alert. Each email address will be separated with commas, and when you're done, you will hit save. If you scroll down, you'll see right down here I have one of these already populated. So if I click Manage List, I'm going to then see whose email address is set up to receive that. Once you've gone through and addressed each of those respective managed lists, you can go ahead and click the X in the top right-hand corner to turn that off. Down here in the bottom right, you'll see your 3 reports. So the very first report listed is our disbursement report. Now this is going to give you a list of all transactions that have already been deposited into your bank account. This is helpful when reconciling the funds that have come through. This can include customer payments or potentially any refunded dollar amounts. The next report we're looking at here is our transaction report. So this report is going to give us a list of all transactions, the date of that transaction, the file names, as well as the payment method used. And our last report here is our chargeback report. So that's going to show us any sort of disputed transactions that your clients did not recognize and disputed with their financial institution. Once you are done adjusting all of those settings, you can hit your OK down here at the bottom, and that window will close. Now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to switch over to the billing side of my Amicus program, and we're going to dig into a file. So I'll go ahead and I'll select my very first file here at the top. So what we are going to do first is determine how we want to use APX for this particular file. To do that, I'm going to head to Admin, Bill Settings, and from here, I'll be addressing first my email bills section. Now, if you already email bills to your clients, you may already have this checked off and specifying we are emailing to the primary client email or to a different email address. But what you'll also need to do is make sure that this box down here, include APX request for payment with email, is checked off. Without this box being checked, the client will receive just a copy of their invoice but have no ability to pay. So checking this box will insert that payment link so that they will not only see their invoice but also be able to pay that bill so long as they have internet access. The other 2 ways of using APX aside from Pay Now, our recurring and our manual payment processing do require that you store a payment method on record. So before we get into that, what you are going to need to do is check this box off underneath our retainers and billing that says use credit card /ACH. Making sure this box is checked is going to ensure that we are able to run the card that we will begin saving on the file. Once you're all done with those settings, you can hit your save and close, and that will return us right back here to our list of files. I'm going to go ahead and head right back into that file here. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and go over how to use APX. So the very first choice we're going to use is running a manual payment. So if I'm going to be running my first manual payment using APX for this file, I'm going to head up here to my ellipses transaction drop down at the very top and go down here to receive payment. So the very first thing we see is our receipt to. we should see APX enabled. Now the next thing I'm going to do is jump down here to my method. As you can see, there are two choices that end in APX. So that will be where I will make my selection based off of the payment method that I am using. So if it is a card payment, I'll select that credit card payment with APX in parentheses. And just to the right of that, I can see there's an empty field here letting me know there is no card on record. If I need to add and save a payment method, I click add right here to the right of that field. And I'm now presented with entering in card information. So as you can see, these are the 4 types of cards that are acceptable. Every field with a red asterisk is a required field. And when you do select the states as our country, it will expect a full billing address. The email address field is also important because this is where receipts will be sent to by default. If anything on this page is entered incorrectly, including the email address of where the receipts are to be sent, you will need to completely remove that payment method and add all over again to change and fix those errors. If your customer wishes to pay with an e-check or ACH, you can fill in that bubble as well. And now we are presented with banking data. And that email address field, same concept applies. All receipts will be sent to this email address whenever the bank account information up above is used. When you are done entering in all of that data, you'll hit that big blue save down here at the bottom, and that will close out your window. And you will see a preview of the card that you have now just saved. Maybe this client here is paying with an e-check or ACH option instead. So I'll go ahead and I'll select that choice from my drop-down. And as you can see, I already have an e-check on file for my particular person here. So I do not need to add anything if that is what I wish to use as my method of payment. The next thing you'll address is our dollar amount box. And you can update that description if need be. Otherwise, if we are no longer needing to select anything in the fields up above, we can move down here to our Pay Now, and that will process that $200 payment using the ACH information on file. Now, maybe this particular file here is needing to make a trust receipt rather than a bill payment. So I'm going to head back to that transaction menu, but in this case, I'm going to head to Trust and go to Trust Receipt. From here, we see APX enabled. In our method, we see our 2 APX options here. So I'm going to need to specify, am I doing a card payment or an ACH payment? And again, if I needed to add, I have my add just to the right of those fields. You can update your description if need be. Otherwise, you'll go ahead and you'll fill in that dollar amount as you always would. And when you're ready, hit Pay Now down here at the bottom. And that will again run that ACH payment for the dollar amount that I've listed up above, heading into my trust account. Now the next option that we're going to go over is our Pay Now feature. So Pay Now, as mentioned, is our emailed invoice with a secure payment link requesting client pay in full. So to begin that, we're going to head up here to that transactions dropdown and go to Bill. Once we get to our final bills section, when I hit my print and post, because I did specify in the billing settings for this file that I wish to email their bills along with the link for payment, it will not truly print and post. What it is going to do is email that bill over to my client at the email address that I have specified and post it. When your client receives their Pay Now request, they'll be presented with an email that looks just like this. Attached will be a copy of their PDF invoice for their records. Up above will show your office information addressed to the primary client on the file, as well as the invoice number and dollar amount due. When they're ready, they'll hit that blue Pay Now icon, and that will route them to their web browser, where they will be presented with, again, your office information at the top, invoice summary showing the invoice number, the date issued, as well as the dollar amount due. They will also see if they currently have a payment method on file stored within your Amicus program, they will see that as an option to pay with. But Pay Now does not require that they have anything on file because they have the ability to add or remove payment methods right from this screen. When they click the plus sign here, they'll be presented with a window that looks just like what we saw within the program, where we are then prompted to enter in the card information or ACH e-check information down below. Again, same concept applies. Every field with that red asterisk is a required field, and the email address shown is where payment details will be sent to. But being as this a pay now, they also have another option here for saving the payment method information for future payments. Now, this does not store the payment method on file within your Amicus program. What it is going to do is show them this particular payment method the next time they receive another pay now request, if they wish to keep this on record. So that way they do not have to enter a new payment method or the same payment method every time they are to pay their bill. Once they have added and saved that payment information, they will see it listed right here below in its own respective box, showing a little preview of information related to the card, a portion of their address, as well as their email. They can always remove a payment method if they wish, just by clicking the trash can icon right here, and that will remove that payment method from the Pay Now screen. Otherwise, the only thing left for them to click is that blue Pay Now icon here, and that will run their card for the dollar amount shown. They receive confirmation right on screen if that payment went through successfully, so they'll see a green bar here at the top. It also lets them know that a receipt has been sent to their email, and they can download the receipt shown on screen. The email that they receive will have your office information here at the top, addressed to the client, letting them know the dollar amount paid, the date, as well as the payment method used. In-house, you will also receive an email notification addressed to whomever the name was on the APX application, letting you know that you have received a payment from Amanda with the details shown below, the dollar amount, the date, and the last four of the payment method used. So at that point, within your program, the payment is being reconciled and the funds are being moved. Now, returning back to my Amicus, the third and final way of using APX, as mentioned, was a recurring payment plan. So for that, we'll head up here to our recurring payments dropdown, click Create Recurring Payment. You will see the file listed and hit Next. So here I again see the file name. I see that it is deposited into my operating, but I can't switch that to my trust if I need to. I see the payment method that is currently being used. And the next thing I'll do is select my recurring type dropdown. So from here we have multiple options available. The most common would be monthly. Now the next thing you're going to do is decide which of these boxes is appropriate. So our recurring amount box is typically used when we are anticipating costs. The client does not yet have a very large balance, but we are expecting them to, so we want to charge them $300 starting on the 9th, meaning it will collect on the 9th of every month for the next 6 months. Now I can enter either a number in this occurrences box, or if I prefer to have a hard stop date, I can also move over here to my end date box. Either way, as soon as I click out of that field, the boxes that I did not select are populated because the system has done the configurations for me, as well as the math to let me know that by the time we are done with this payment plan, we will have collected $1,800, and our last payment will be collected on November 9th of 2023. Now, the other way of using this would be maybe this particular file, we have closed the case. We're no longer anticipating costs, but they owe us a very large balance that they cannot afford to pay in full. We can enter that total amount in this field here. Again, you will select your start date, and in your occurrences, you will just indicate how long you are giving them to pay off this particular balance, or we can go with a hard stop date. Now, either way, if I am giving them 6 months to pay off their $4,000 bill, you can see the system will adjust and update my dates as well as the reoccurring amount. So you can explain to the client the details of this payment plan upon hitting save. This description box can also be modified. Just place your cursor and highlight or delete, as well as begin typing, whichever is appropriate for what you're looking to do. And the final box that we have here is our notifications box. So this is pulling the email addresses from our firm settings that we have indicated that we would like to receive email notifications pertaining to our recurring payment plans. So if your email address is not listed here, but you do need to be made aware of recurring payment plans happenings, you will need to go back to firm settings and add your email address to each respective recurring payment email alert choice. Once you are happy with what you see here, you'll hit that blue Create Schedule down at the bottom right, and our window here will close, and you're now presented with a list of all of our payment plans, whether they be currently not started or active. You would see that here to the very far right in our status column. For those that have been completed, you'll show a shade of green and say completed, and those that were canceled mid-plan will show with a shade of red and say canceled. Any active plan can be canceled. Just click on that line item and your cancel button will light up. Now again, my first line here has not yet started. So because it has not yet started, the only option available to me to stop this is to delete it altogether. Now canceling or deleting both will stop payment on that particular plan going forward, but delete is only available when we have not yet begun that plan, and cancel is only available when we have. Either way, if you do cancel a plan mid-plan, it will turn that shade of red, just like this line that we see here. And if I click on it, I get the index card here to the right, letting me know the status shown as canceled, as well as a little bit of data surrounding that plan. If at any point I want this index card to go away, I'll just click right back on that line item, and now it has collapsed for me. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of here now. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump over to our APX dashboard, where you'll be able to look at a bit of metrics around your APX transactions. Now this dashboard here should have been set up from your APX application and onboarding process. If you do not remember the credentials here, just go ahead and click Forgot Password. It will ask for the email address that you provided on your application, and it will send a code to that email for you to begin the login process and resetting the details here. Now, while this is loading, we'll address our quick charge. So this quick charge box is not functional. You'll want to ignore this section here, and it will be removed as they are currently making changes to our dashboard here and improving functionality. Our today's sales is going to show a line graph, just letting you know how we are doing for today's date. Our account balance is giving us the dollar amount of current pending deposits that we have sent to your bank, but they have not yet been made available to you. So as those funds are distributed into your bank account, this dollar amount will reduce. The next thing we're looking at here is our sales box. So this again will function as a line graph as well, just like the today's sales up above, but we get to see it over a greater date range. So we can see those dates along the very bottom. If I need to change them in any way, I can use the calendar icon here or my purple preset dropdown. And just to the right of that, you have our funds snapshot. So we will have our year-to-date details, month-to-date, and today's date. If I need to adjust that date, I'll use the calendar icon up here at the top and make my selection. Now I also have the ability of looking at my snapshot here as a calendar year or a rolling. So if that is the case, I can just click that bubble here and it'll slide over to rolling, and now I'll see rolling 12 months and so on. Moving back up to the top, we're going to go over just a few choices here along the left. So under payments, we're going to payment history. And what you're presented with here is a list of all transactions. So you're going to be able to tell where we are at within the life cycle of that transaction based on what we are seeing in this status column. When we first run a payment method and we are approved, you're going to see a blue icon here with a check in the middle. And when I hover, it will say approved. When we have sent that deposit to your bank account for them to now process, you will see that bubble turn green and say captured. So that means the funds are not yet available to you, but the deposit has been sent to your bank. When those funds are available to you and are in your bank account, that will remain green, but when I hover, it will say settled. So that means that those funds are now available to you. And you're also notified of any failed transactions. So what that looks like is just this icon here, that white bubble with a gray X, and when I hover, it says failed. So anything on this screen here is clickable, whether it be a successful transaction or a failed one. If I ever want to know more data about any of these transactions, just click on anything from that line, and right up here you're notified failed insufficient funds. So that is your way of letting the client know when you do give them a call, or let them know that we ran into an issue running their visa ending in 1869, and the message we got back was insufficient funds. If at any point you need more details, you can scroll down to our transaction details, and if I click alerts, I will see more information surrounding that message. The next thing we're heading to is disputes. So this is the same exact data that would show up on your chargeback report. This is just here more for convenience, but the data should match. If you do end up running your report from our disputes in the APX dashboard, you can download your data using our CSV or our XLS file download. The next thing is payment returns. So payment returns is not something that you should see much data under, if ever. What a payment return is a deposit that we have sent to your bank that they have since rejected and sent back to us. Now, usually this is something that only happens if the banking data that we have on file for you has changed, or potentially your bank does not recognize the deposit that we are sending and they have flagged it. So either way, if you see any data here and you know that nothing has changed or that we need to be notified because something has, just give us a call and we can work with you to fix those and reroute that deposit. The next thing we're going to is under our management header under users. So you do have the ability of adding other firm users to accessing our APX dashboard. So what you will do is you'll come over here to the top right and click add user. You're going to select their role, giving them either full access or view only. Usually if we are giving access to this dashboard at all, it is to give full access, meaning they can freely click through just like I am, as well as add other users. Whereas view only is just that. They cannot add any additional users and they are only presented with what automatically loads on the screen for them. You also have our username and password fields, so you will begin filling in this information along with their full name and email, and the email address listed here will receive those credentials as well as a link and invitation to log in for the first time. The next thing we're heading to is under our admin menu under withdrawals. And again, we see that account balance listed up here, so that is money on the way. That is deposits that we have sent to your bank that they are currently working on making available to you. Our withdrawal schedule is referring to our fees, so those are coming out on a daily frequency as transactions are being processed. So if we scroll down to the rest of the way, we have our withdrawal history. And what we're seeing here is a list of transactions as well as fees for those transactions. So we will use these two lines here as our example. And as you can see, they do stack up within just a couple of minutes of each other. But what you will be seeing, and this is something that is helpful when looking at your bank deposit slips, you will see a positive dollar amount being the deposit that we have submitted to your bank through transactions that we have collected from your clients using APX, as well as a negative dollar amount, which is going to be the fees that we are pulling out of your operating account for the deposit that we have processed using APX. So that would be the negative that you'll see. And again, that is only coming out of the operating, whereas the positive dollar amount is the full deposit of the transaction dollar amounts that we have collected. So that is all that there is to our APX within your Amicus program. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to book an APX training session and we'll be more than happy to assist you further.